It is time for Storm Above the Reich. Welcome. Let's get right into this. This will be just kind of an overview, what we're doing. I managed to get this game out. I still haven't gotten to the move yet, but I managed to get this out, and this might be my last one for conceivably a week or so. We'll find out. So Storm Above the Reich. What's this about? Storm Above the Reich is a solitaire game depicting a Luftwaffe squadron called a Staffel of Focke-Wulf 190s struggling to deter and destroy the relentless daylight raids during World War II. The player's individual aircraft, each represented by a stickered block, must confront the mighty combat box formation of the United States Army Air Force, a deadly terrain of B-24 Liberator heavy bombers. The game is a broad strokes depiction that presents the arc of the desperate air war. Beginning in the Mediterranean in 1942 and ending over Germany in 1945, Storm Above the Reich follows that trajectory in a series of missions strung together to make a campaign. Each mission will take you half an hour or more to play, while a campaign can last anywhere between 6 to 60 missions. Okay, so to put plainly, let's bring it up here, see if I can get it into focus. These are your guys. These are you, and these are yours. And you can see up here, we got, I think it ends up being 18 of them. And this is your squadron. And they even have, let's see here, names. And so it has kind of almost a role-playing game kind of feel to it. You'll earn skills and experience points, and you'll spend them on skills and then level up, as it were. And I really kind of dig that kind of aspect. I think they had that like in Squad Leader, like thousands of years ago when I played that. You'd have an officer, and he could like rank up and things like that. But that's I'm actually, just kind of a mini review. I've played a few scenario missions of this. Starting to get into it. I haven't really gotten to the advanced rules yet, but I will. What I wanted to say is I'm enjoying this a little bit more than the Hunters, as it is, just with a few plays and things like that. It's just a few more tactical decisions as you're playing. Like I said, these guys are you, and here, let's do some stop motion photography to kind of illustrate what's going on. As we got our enemies here. This is all called an element. Hang on. And I popped out one of the bigger maps here, and you can see there's an element, there's an element, there's an element, there's an element, and so on. And it's the 9 boxes around them, if you can see that, that forms up an element, and the whole thing is a formation, box formation, which we're trying to crush on the simple map. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to do, if you look in the back of the manual, there's a training mission, and that's basically what I'm going to show you. It's only going to be 2 aircraft, so it won't be that interesting. When you get like 10 and 12 aircraft on here, obviously it gets nice and fun with the chaos. But just to kind of give you like how it goes through the turn, I do want to mention one thing about this little box here. There's a little getting started. It says you don't need to read this rule book to learn the game. Peruse the player aid folders. They will explain the components and some basic concepts. Then follow the instructions on the bifold player aid for the basic game and start playing. Refer to this rule book as needed. I'm not so sure about that. You can, especially if you played the Skies Above the Reich, the original game, which I have not. Otherwise, I think what I ended up doing is just going through this rulebook is really nice, big print, and it's all laid out in sequence order. So you can just follow along the pages. And because there are a few persnickety rules that you can mind, I felt if you would just kind of play and go back to the rulebook, you're going to be just constantly, diving back into that rulebook and getting a little frustrated, I think. But let's get started. This very basic training scenario is not going to give you we're not going to cover things like how to set up the mission. And I'll just show you that real quick. That's going to be actually the first phase is a mission setup, depending on what season you pick. You can get early 43 all the way to 45, and that limits the technology. What you picked limits the technology, whether you can have rockets and various things. And you'll just roll dice, and you'll say, okay, I'm going to roll dice for the map. I'm going to roll for what kind of mission it is. I'm going to roll for how many operational points I have to spend to buy the aircraft, and what kind of escort I can anticipate encountering as I do it. But that's all gone. For this tutorial mission, there's no escorts. It's the basic map, and this is just one formation of six B-24s. And there won't be an escort. Escort will come over here, and they'll come onto the... They're kind of neat. They'll come in here, and they'll shoot at your planes and things like that. But let's start with the basics. Here's our two fighters. And so, when we actually get into the mission, first thing we're going to do is phase 1, which is the move phase. Now, turn 1... Let's see here. That shouldn't be there, and that shouldn't be there. The flight limit is 5, and flight limit is basically just how many turns you have in this mission. It can be as many as 12, but in this one, for the tutorial purposes, it's 5. And so you start on turn 1. Now, turn 1 is usually going to be fairly boring because the only thing you can really do on turn 1 is enter your aircraft. And you can enter, from the nose, the tail, the flank, or both flanks. And there's advantages and disadvantages to each one. But again, we're not going to get too deep into the woods here about what. So I'm going to go ahead and do what the tutorial has them doing, and that is entering. You have to come in at the low level. And of course, as you can imagine, this formation, imagine the formation is here. If I'm like right level with it, that will be called level. If I'm below it, it'll be low, and obviously. But we always have to start low when we come into the mission. Then we're not going to go. Second phase is return. I won't get too far into that until it actually happens. Escort. There's no escort. We're not going to worry about that now. That's the enemy planes that might fighters that try to swat you off from fighting the bombers. Recovery is when you get hit. We have to roll, kind of do a saving roll in a sense. Blast and flak. If you're doing a mission that's called near target, you're going to encounter flak. They can hit the bombers and hit you if you happen to be in the wrong place. Cohesion, we'll get into that a little bit, is how tight this formation is. Right now it's in good order. As I start attacking it, it might fall out and loosen up and make it easier to attack them. And then finally we get to the attack phase, and that's where these planes are just going to come in from various sides here and move on like that. Tell you what, where is he? We got Doppler. So whenever you use him, you have to make the sound effect. You have to go. No, I'm just kidding. That's not in the rules. Sound effects are not required, but highly recommended. Okay, so we popped into the move box. That's basically our turn. So, turn 2. Move. Okay, now here's the thing. Let me close in on this box here. Okay, I put them here earlier. I'm going to slide it up so you can take a look here. And you'll see in the low box here, hopefully it comes in focus. Okay. You can see I can move a box here for 0 technical. There's no tactical points for this tutorial thing. But if I had them, I could spend them to move to a different position. From here, I could go to the nose, any position, for 2 tactical points. I don't have any, but what I can do is go to the tail for 0 points. And that's actually what we're going to do. Tail attacks are nice and good for doing damage on the bombers. They're also a little risky for us. But we're going to go ahead and do that. And we're going to go, and it says any. That means I can go low, level, or high. Any one I want. And I'm going to go ahead and go high. So I'm going to put my guys over here. And like so. Now, again, we have not moved into an attack position yet. We're just kind of feeling around. Like I said, it's only 2 fighters, which is not that exciting. But obviously, if you have 10, Some of them are going to go in for the attack. Others are going to reposition and to get a good attack, and so on. But for now, we're just going to go here. There's no return, there's no escort, there's no recovery, there's no blast and flak, there's no cohesion because we haven't even attacked anything yet, but we are. No, we're not going to attack either here. So we've burned up turn 1, and I burned up another turn 2 to get in what I would consider a better attack position. So we end up going to turn 3. And here, when we move, we're going to go into the approach box. And this is where you're committing to an attack. And you're committing to a high tail attack. So, and once again, return, no escort, no recovery, blast, flak, stages 2 through 6 do not count. And so we're finally at the attack phase. All right, so we grab our little sequence of play for attacking. Approach, we shift the fighters from the approach boxes to spaces in the bomber formation. I can pick, you can see they all these bombers have little tic-tac-toe boxes, and this is where we're going to attack. And we can attack anyone, but we're always attacking a tail of something. So it could be here, 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 and you usually point the planes in the direction it's going. Now, I'm going to go ahead and nab this one in the back here. And the reason we're doing that is because each of these little boxes has a number. And you can see 2, 2, 3, things like that. And that is the lethal level. That is how dangerous this area is to us, our planes. And you can see I'm going to go for the lowest one I can find, which is the 1. And you can see the whole idea is here, these bombers have, 6 machine gun positions on them, and they got 360 coverage, but they're also covering the bomber around them. So you can see you got coverage by 3 bombers, and so naturally the lethal level here is 3. But we're going to go pick on the guy in the back here. The low-hanging fruit, as it were. Okay, we've done that. And we go to out of the sun. Out of the sun, we won't get too far into that, but later you'll roll a die and you'll figure out where the sun is. And obviously if you tack out from that box, you'll get an ability to kind of ignore hits, because the gunner's staring at the sun when he's trying to shoot you, and it blinds him. So we've done that. Select each fighter's mode. This is what we call kind of the default mode, I'd say, is determined mode. We can also choose, flip it over, and do evasive mode. Evasive will let you attack, but it's safer against return fire. It also might not be as effective as going determined, but it's up to you. We'll just keep them in determined for now. I'm not going to get too deep into that. That's now I'm going to put them both into box. Any number of fighters can be in the box. And then it says collision checks. Now collision checks only happen exactly in this kind of position, is when I have more than one fighter in the same box. Now I have to draw. We use draw cups in this game, and this is for hits against my fighters, and it's also for collision checks. So we're going to draw one shit only, not one for each. And you just select which fighter to put it on. So we'll go let's choose him, and we'll just take this and we'll flip it over to the backside. And what we draw is proximity, no effect. So we didn't run into the other fighter, and we didn't run into the bomber, which is a possibility. Now, we don't get rid of this. We keep it on here because that is going to factor into whether this formation stays coherent. So we leave that on there. Okay, we're attacking from the rear. Okay, what's next? Next on the list is select maneuvers. This is basically where you're going to go after you make your run in. And you'll just use some little chits to mark it off. Let's make him just dive. Okay, so he's going to come in and he's going to attack like this. And as he moves on, he's just going to go forward. And he's going to dive, and he's going to go over to the return boxes here after he attacks. And this guy, let's show there's also climb. But let's do something just for interest's sake. Let's make him do a roll climb. So he's going to come in and he's going to break off this direction and go to climbing, so he'd go to this return box. Okay, so there we are. That is that, and you keep those on there as to remind you what's going to happen. Okay, what's next? We did our collision checks, we selected our maneuvers, we checked for advantages. Okay, now here's where the tactics come in and how you set up your attacks, because you're going to really want to exploit the advantages here. I only got two fighters, and and in this case there's only one advantage I can take. Now, when you have a space with two or more fighters attacking from the same box or same approach box, then you can take what's known as the rote advantage. And what this is going to do is cancel a hit against your fighters. And that's definitely handy because, in the Hunters, that game, the sub can take quite a beating before it actually sinks. These fighters are pretty darn fragile. It only takes one well-placed hit and they're gone. So obviously we want to collect advantages. There's a position advantage as well. If you attack from a different position and from different altitudes, you can get another one of these per element. And there's, what is it, 1, 2, there's like 6 different ones. Finally, if you attack en masse, like 4 fighters from the tail or the nose, you can get the swarm advantage. David Schwimmer doing the swarm. And that's going to just give you some automatic hits on the bomber. And so you definitely want to get that, because these bombers are nice and robust. So you want to be able to hit them as much as possible. Okay. Sorry, getting a little too deep in the woods there. Okay, we checked for the advantages. We got one advantage. Now it's the burst phase. And the burst phase is really just drawing these cards. And there's 3 different decks. There's tail, nose, oblique, or, the flanks. And we're just going to draw a card for each one and apply it. So let's do, and you do them in any order you want. Rule. His name is Rule. R-U-H-L. Rule. I don't know. Tail. Just a little critical note. The art on these cards is okay-ish. I could have gone for something a little more poppy, but it's all right. Anyway, so he draws his first card. He flips it over. Now, the way we read this card is we find out what the lethal level of this box is. If you look here, right now it is a 1. And that can change. So we go to the 1. We came from the high position, not the level or the low. And it looks like nothing. Big goose eggs. I almost hardly ever see that. So we attacked. Nothing. We didn't get hit. Nothing else happened. So we got to draw another card for errands. Tail attack. Ah, 1. We got the symbol for a hit. We are going to damage the bomber. So we have a separate draw cup for damaging against bombers. And we'll grab one at random. And we hit the fuselage. Sorry about that. Okay. Now, in this case, the fuselage has a little number up here. And in a sense, this is like a saving throw. If I can roll 10, well, you only have 10-sided dice. So the only way that this will happen is if I roll a natural 10. And, well, what do you know? I did. Okay, if I had not rolled that, I would turn it over, and that would be the amount of damage I do to this bomber. And once you collect like 10 of these, 10 points worth of markers on these, it would be destroyed. But we rolled a natural 10, and in this case, that destroys the bomber outright. And so, boom. That one is gone. And there's another, let me show you another result. You can get something like this, where you see this little down arrow. This one, if you fail this roll, or if the bomber fails this roll, it falls out of formation. And in the advanced rules, you can go pursue them and stuff like that. But just to show you that option there. I haven't, that's the first time I ever rolled a straight destroy on that. Well, it was a really lucky roll, so we just blasted them right out of the sky. Okay, and we would get victory points and experience points for that. I'll leave that off for now. Which, no, okay, you know what, victory points and experience points. I'm not going to go over that. Okay, so we've done both our attacks, and now we're going to break away, which means we're going to do our maneuver to show which box, but we can't do it yet because we have to suffer continuing fire. That means we're going out here, and now this bomber is shooting at us as we try to break away. And we have a special deck for continuing fire. And you have to draw one for each. So let's do him first. We draw one, and now, oh, we missed it. First of all, well, hang on. First you look at the event text, and you execute this first. Into the sub, if climbing or climb rolling. We're not, dive, so we ignore all that. No effect. Now, normally this kill box is 1. And so normally we'd be 1, we would have gotten hit. However, because we destroyed the bomber, that makes all the kill boxes in a 4-space area, or all the lethal boxes, -1. So this box is -1, so it makes it a 0. You can see the 0 there. Nothing happens. We survive continuing fire. Now we have to draw one for the other. And power bleed. Interesting. Okay, so we are climbing. So we are going to get, if climbing or climb rolling, after resolving continuing fire, fighter switches to evasive mode, then breaks away to tail/low. Well, that's easy. That doesn't hurt us in any way, because once again, we're at 0, so we didn't take a hit. And so we have to flip to evasive mode. And then we're going to break away to tail low. So we're going to, we're going to go like this. Boom. And, oh, we go to this return box. No, we're in evasive. We go to this evasive box. Now you can see what happens, and I'll show you here when we go to another turn. Okay. But otherwise, we survive continuing fire. Okay, so he broke away to the tail. This guy is going to dive to low. So he goes all the way over here. He's still in determined mode. Can't really see that box, can you? Like that. And he's going to go in here. Now. And that's the end of the turn. Okay, let's get back in here. So we're on to turn 4. Now I can show you a few things. Okay. First of all, first part is move. We don't move because we're in return boxes, and that is what return is for. Now, anybody in a return box comes in, and they can only move into the low. He's in the low as well, but he has to move to return because he's to another return box. So he is out, because when you go in evasive, you're safer, but now you have to burn up a turn over here. And that's all gets into the tactics here. It says, do I want to be evasive, or do I want to get back into the battle as soon as possible? And that's one of those big considerations you have to go. So we got one guy still in a return. We got one guy at low. Now, escort, no escort. Recovery, there's no hits. Okay, I don't want to... Okay, I want to finish this up. Let's pretend that he got hit. In this recovery phase, the hit doesn't apply until this phase. You get hit in the previous turn, but you don't actually see what happened in the hit until this turn in the recovery phase. And so you look at this, and you have to roll a die against this number here. It's a hit on the fuselage, and you roll like this. And I rolled a 7. I rolled higher. So actually, I'm safe. So I would just chuck that back into the draw pit box, and that would be the end of that. Let me picture. That is grade or 2. It's called a trivial hit. Oh no! I just dropped all the counters everywhere. Oh, well. Sorry, and I could have canceled that hit. Let's say I didn't have this, I could have canceled that hit. But let's say I failed that. Let's say I rolled a 1 or a 1. Then that would have hit me. I would be out of the mission. And you'd go by. It says fuselage. you come over here to the fate box, and you put this plane in the fuselage box. And there it would stay for the whole mission, and at the very end you find out what happens. You have to roll a dice, and it either lands, in which case you're safe, or it crashes, or fire, or it explodes. And when it's crashing or exploding and all that stuff, you have a chance to bail out, or just be wounded, or you just die. And that's how that works. I just wanted to show how that worked. Okay, so that is the anatomy of turns in this. So, and we'd have one more time. I could do one more turn to bring him in here, maybe make one more attack so you could see that. But I think you get, I did want to do this though. We did the recovery phase. Okay, he was okay. So he's actually in the return box right there. Okay, blast and flak. There's no blast and flak. Cohesion. Now here's where it would actually come in. These apply to the entire element. And you basically, when you ever have markers on any bombers, you count them up and you have to roll against it. And in this case, it would be 2. I have to roll a 2 or less, which I did. Okay, now what that does, it takes the whole formation and puts it in loose. Shoot, destroying that bomber outright shook everyone else up, and they're kind of loosening up. They're not covering each other as well. Now we have a -1 to all the kill boxes in this element. Now, if they fail again, they go to what's called kaput. The formation is really bad, and then it'd be -2 to every box. And if they make their throw, it will improve back to loose, but once they're out of order, it never goes back to good order. So you'll always be, once you lose good order, you're always going to be at least loose. And that's a factor. That is really the basics of a turn. I didn't get into the whole mission setup things. That's going to be next time. I think I'm going to do just start a nice campaign and just go through it, and we'll just have a little adventure story time and like that. I hope that gave you an idea of this game, and let me know what you think in the comments, and thanks for watching.